So this afternoon we'll start Kuf Chaf Hamid Beis. That's 120b. We start from the Chaya Echel Eschulu. It starts at the bottom of the page, and it's talking about when you can testify about that a person passed away. Is that you have to see the face, but the nose, and you can't testify just because the person looks like he's dying. He actually has to see that he died. One of the points is that just if you see he's cut, or if you see he's crucified, or if there's an animal that's eating him, that's not enough. That would only be if the animal is biting a part of the body that wouldn't cause death. I don't know, the extremities. But if the animal is eating part of him that would actually kill him, his head, or something like that, so that would be that they could testify. Let's say his neck was cut, and both pipes, or the majority of both pipes, but the fellow ran away. So they can testify that he died. You can't survive that. What are you telling me that he died? We have a Gemara where it says that if a person's neck was cut, and he hints to the people around him that they should write a get for his wife. So they write a get and give it. So they write a get for his wife, and they give it, and obviously the person's alive. You can't write a get after death, so the person must be alive. The Gemara says, well, that's not a question on what you just said, that he can't survive. Chayu, b'seifei lamas. Right now he's alive. We're just saying that he can't survive this for a long time. How long can he survive? A few moments. If that's the case where he can't survive, I mean, he's the one that caused the death. I mean, someone that does this to him is actually the one that killed him. So then they should be gullus. It should be someone kills someone else by accident, has to go to gullus, go to the cities of refuge. Problem is, Alamatanya, why was it taught in the Brisa? Shachat shnayim erev shnayim. If his neck was cut, both pipes, or the majority of both pipes, it says Harei ein a goyla. He doesn't go to gullus, because he doesn't die right away. He dies afterwards. But now we're saying that it's a direct cause, so he should go to gullus. The Gemara says, problem is maybe the wind is what really caused the death, because probably means infection or something, or more than that. The wind is what caused the death, or because of what's it called when the body shakes, like convulses. It convulses, and he convulsed he overly convulsed, and that itself was what caused him to die quicker. So you can't blame the whole death on this person, even though he couldn't have survived really, but it could be he added to it that causes that. My benayo. What's the difference between these two possibilities? One is the shachti bebesa the shisho parchas. One is if this happened to him in a house of marble, it means there's no wind, there's no germs there, and uparchas, but nevertheless he had convulsions. Inami the shachti bebra v'lei parchas, or maybe this happened to him outside in the wind, but there were no convulsions. So that would be either one reason or the other. Basically, take away one reason, and then only left with the other one. Is that really the main point? Rabbi Yehuda loikol v'chulu. We've had in the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda says that you can't just say that 3 days. You can only testify about within the first 3 days of the death. After the first 3 days, then you can't recognize the face anymore. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, it depends on the situation. The Gemara asks, Rabbi Yehuda, it wasn't Rabbi Yehuda, it was Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava, right? Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava, yeah. Rabbi Yehuda is Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Lai. That's the student of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava was the one that gave smicha to Rabbi Akiva's students. He was older than Rabbi Akiva's students. He was, right? Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava, he was the one between the mountains. 300 spears, right? We read about him on Tisha B'Av, Yom Kippur. He was killed. So, Rabbi ben Bava lekula palig or lechumra palig? Is he arguing? He's saying that you have more than 3 days to testify, lekula, or is he lechumra, saying they have less than 3 days? Okay, Tashima, Dr. Stein, I see you have the minions. Tashima, who gathered the tava?
Everyone needs a minion.
That's right.
Shechina, we need the minion.
The who gathered the tava bekarmi? There was a person that drowned. He was in the city of Karmi. Basku abehadia, and they brought him out of the water after 3 days in Behadia. It's another area. Okay. Labasat Lasiyam was after 3 days. Now, there's a problem because you can only testify about someone within the first 3 days. But what happened was, Rav Dimi min Ardai allowed his wife to get married. He said, we know that it's him because we saw it looks like him. It's good. Visu, in another case, who gathered Diglas? He drowned in the Diglas. Diglas is the Euphrates. That's not the Euphrates. It's the Tigris. Diglas is the Tigris. That even sounds like that, right? Tigris. Yeah, the Tigris River. And Vasku Agishra de Shavistina. And they brought him out of the water. Rashi says after 5 days. By the bridge of Shavistina. Bansavu Ravala de Bisu. And Rava allowed his wife to get married. Apuma de Shushvini Labasa Chamisha Yaimi. On the, what does that mean? Apuma de Shushvini? Let me look at your thing. Yeah. Upon the testimony, based on the friend's testimony, that the body was seen only after 5 days, only 5 days after death. Apuma on the mouth, the shushvini of the friends. The friends saw this. Now, if we say that Rabbi ben Bava is being more lenient, that you have more time than 3 days, then we understand what's going on with Rabbi Dimi min Ardai and Rava. They were paskening like Rabbi ben Bava. But if you say that Rabbi ben Bava is being more strict, when he says, oh, it depends on the situation, is he saying that sometimes it's not even 3 days? Or is he saying, no, sometimes it's more than 3 days? If you say that what he really means is that it's not even 3 days, you have even less than that. So David commands, so then who are they paskening like? It's a Shanimaya de Tzimsi. It's not a Raya. Because normally you only have 3 days. But the water keeps the body shrunk. Tzimsi is to shrink, it keeps it in its own position, that it doesn't swell and become deformed. Amrit Maya Marzu Maka. You said before that the water is much worse. It causes that. What was that case? When the person fell into the water and they brought up only the leg, right? He said, but if a person's caught, he said you can't testify that he's dead. Why over here testifying? He said, oh no, the water makes it much worse. Now you're telling me that the water keeps the body intact. It says, over there, the water makes it worse if there's already a wound. But if there is no wound, it's just he drowned. Mitzvah tzamis, so then it keeps the body in its original form. But that's only when they take it out of the water, they see him right away. But if they wait, mitvach patach, the body swells. What was that guy in Russia? I forgot his name. It was like friendly with the family of Rasputin. What was his name? Was there someone Rasputin? Yeah. He died. He was the guy with the last Tsar. Yeah. Anyway, they shot him a few times. He went into the water. Anyway, they brought him out still alive or something. I don't know. So I forget exactly the. But anyway, okay. Nafal. We have a new Mishnah. Nafal Amayim. Someone fell into the water, and they don't know what happened to him. So ben sheish lem seif, ben shein lem seif, ishtei asura. Tanakama says it doesn't matter what type of water this is, whether the water has an end or whether it doesn't have an end. The Gemara is going to explain that it means water without an end means that you can't see the end of the water. Water with an end means that when you turn around, you can see all the air, all the surface, all the what's it called? The edge of the water, the bank. You can see the bank all the way around. So it doesn't matter, ishtei asura, whether you can see all the concept over here is if the person somehow traveled underwater and is now coming out, would you see him coming out? So if it's yesh lahem saif, then you would see him coming out and you're looking around, you don't see him. You wait there for an hour. How long can he survive underwater? He didn't come out. So that's yesh lahem saif. Ein lahem saif means I can't see the end of it. I don't know where he came out. Washed up on an island somewhere. So either case, Rab Meir. Someone fell into a pit. Labar Gadol, big pit. He came up after 3 days. See, Rab Meir says, "What are you telling me?" He can still he can survive even 3 days in the water. That's Rab Meir is actually saying a proof to what we said before, that a person can survive for a long time. It's a proof. Before we said ishtei asura, Rab Meir is saying, yeah, look, we even have a story. As a blind person, we don't think about this, but this has got to be really difficult. He goes down to immerse in a cave, and in the cave had water in it. V'yarad moishchay acharav. Moishchay must be the person that pulls him, that his attendant. And v'sho kadesha teitzi nafshim. They waited long enough that it's impossible that they survived. You see what's Nishasayim? And they let the wives get married. So Rabbi Yossi is arguing. He says that it's mutter. Maybe because it's a cave. He's not really arguing. Maybe everyone would agree on a cave because they can't get out without seeing the opening, right? Sometimes. Okay. Beshuv Mai Sebastian. It was a story in Asia, which was probably a city somewhere. Person, they lowered him into the sea. This is the Gemara that, when the Gemara quoted this before, it's quoting this Mishnah. But they also be other ragle, but when they pulled him out, they only pulled up his foot. If it's from the knee and above, so tinase, then for sure he died. It's above the knee, from the thigh area they pulled out. For sure he died. It's a big wound. But if it's from the knee and below the knee, then it could be survived. Yeah.
So see a whole person, not to see
No.
below the knee.
No, because they lowered him into the water. Yeah. It's not just for testifying that he had the same shoes as the guy that Nike. It's because they saw him going down, and this is what they're pulling out. Tana Rabbana, and it was taught in a brisa. Nafalamayim ben sheish lem seif ben shlem seif ishtei asura div Rab Meir. That's Rab Meir's view. that if whether there's an end to the water, whether there's no end to the water, the wife is prohibited to get married. The Chacham say there's a big difference here. If it's yesh lem saif, if there is an end to the water, that means you can turn around and you can see all of the banks. So if the miteris, then the wife is permissible to get married. That means because he's for sure died. We didn't see him come up. Shein lem saif, if there's no end to the water, shtasura, then the wife is prohibited to get married because we don't know where the husband is. We didn't see him get pulled up yet. What's the case of water that doesn't have an end? I'm sorry, that does have an end. What is the case of water that has an end? Anyone that can turn around and see all four sides, the end of the river, the banks, so that's considered that it has an end. Who Gavra? There was a person, the Tava Ba'agma the Samki. He drowned in the marsh, which apparently it's not water that's flowing. You can't swim in it, or you can't swim far. So we're thinking that if he got up, we would have seen him. Sounds like the Everglades. There's water. We're thinking that we would see him.
It's a limited area.
Yeah, it's a marshland. So
It doesn't have
not necessarily. We're thinking that it's Kamayim Sheyesh Lehem Saif. So Insaba Rav Shila Ledebisu. Rav Shila let his wife get married. Said he for sure died. Rav Shila is an Amira that's older than Rav and Shmuel. He was in Bavel when Rav and Shmuel came. Yeah, I think they would go to Rav Shila's shir or something when Rav and Shmuel came to Bavel. Amali Rav l'Shmuel, Rav says to Shmuel, Tana Shamte, let's put Rav Shila into Cherem. They didn't like his psak. Asking that the wife could get married. Amalei, Shmuel says, Nishlach le Beresha. Let's not put him into Cherem right away. Let's ask him an explanation for what he did. Shalchule, they sent him, Mayim Shein Lem Saif, Ishta'asura Miteres, water that has no end. Is that allowed the wife? If the person drowns in that water, is the wife permitted to get married or not permitted to get married? Shalchulahu, so Rav Shila sends to Rav and Shmuel, Ishta'asura, the wife is prohibited. You don't know where he came up. It's Ein Lehem Saif, there's no end. We don't know where he came up. Ba'agma de Samki, they ask, Mayim Sheish Lem Saif and Mayim Shein Lem Saif. The marshland of Samki, is that have an end or not have an end? Shalachlu, Mayim Shein Lem Saif, says it's Mayim Shein Lem Saif. That means that the wife is not allowed to get married. It's Ein Lehem Saif, and Ein Lehem Saif means that she can't get married. We don't know where he came up, or if he came up, or so they asked him, Amar, my time Avadachi, so why did you paskin that she's allowed to get married? He says, Mita Te'ina Ana. I made a mistake. Sabri, even the cover of a kaimai, because the water is still water, Kamayim Sheish Lem Saif Dami, it's considered like it has an end. I guess he was learning that what's the pshat in Mayim Shein Lem Saif is those currents under the water that are going to pull him to who knows where, and he can come up somewhere else. But over here, the water's still water. How far could he go? So he considered, even though it's Ein Lehem Saif, he considered it like he thought it was like a Yesh Lem Saif. But it's not so. Kivan de Kagali, Ein Magali Yishpalu. Because there are waves, could be that the waves Ishpalu, I think it means like push them down, could keep them going somewhere. Okay, so Kari Shmuel alayed the Rav. So Shmuel said regarding Rav, because Rav must put Rav Shila and Cherem, he says, La Yuna Letzadik Kalavan. The Tzadik, nothing bad happens to him. He was protected. And Kari Rav alayed the Shmuel, and Rav says about Shmuel, Shua B'Reiv Yayetz, that salvation comes with much counsel. Shmuel gave Rav good advice not to put him in cherem. You should first ask and find out what his opinion was. Tanya was taught in a brisa. I'm a Rebbe. Rebbe says, "Ma'ase b'shnei b'nei adam mechmurim b'yardin." Two people, they're putting out nets in the Jordan River. They're catching fish. One of them ends up in a, I don't know what a mechila is. It sounds like a cave area. What is it? Some area where there's fish. B'shaka chama. Sunset. He couldn't find the entrance to the cave. I saw something about this in like these places where these caves where these dolphins go or something, and they hang out in like these different interesting areas. Anyway, this fellow ends up in an area like that, and
Rabbi,
yeah,
these caves often, it depends if it's high tide or low tide. So that at high tide you don't see the cave. At low tide you see the entrance because they have them in the Mediterranean. I've spoken to people who've gone diving there. I don't know if that's what's talking about.
No, that would make sense. His friend waited long enough that he thinks that if any longer than this, they can't survive. So, he goes to the person's house and he says, we went fishing together and he didn't make it out of the cave. So, the next day, the sun came up. When the sun comes up, you can see where the entrance is. You can see the light coming through. You can find your way. A person can find his way out. It was in the dark where he can't. He doesn't know where to go. He gets out of the water, and he comes to his house. He sees everyone is. It's a big eulogy going on. They're mourning that he passed away. Amar Rebbe kama gedolim divrei chachamim shemayim sheyesh lehem seifish temeteres she'ein lehem seifish dasura. See what they said? Mayim she'ein lehem seif. They can't be. This is water that doesn't have an end. The sages said this, so that's why the sages are correct. Could be he's going to survive. 1 second. If this is actually a possibility, that if he comes up, we would have seen him, but maybe there's a cave underwater where he's able to get in there and he was able to breathe. Isn't that interesting? If the cave came down, the water would not rise above the entranceway, because the air bubble would hold the. He can be in there and pick his head up and breathe, depending on how big it is, right? So why did the sages make a distinction between Mayim Sheyesh Lem Seif and Ein Lem Seif? Even by Yesh Lem Seif, maybe he survived because he found his way into one of these underwater caves and he's able to breathe over there. Gemara says, Mayim Sheyesh Lem Seif Mechila Shel Dagam Le'Shchicha. In lakes, where that's a lake would be a Mayim Sheyesh Lem Seif. Over there, the caves are not so common. In the Mayim She'ein Lem Seif, over there, it's possible. In the oceans, you can have caves. But just in a lake where you can see that both ends or all four ends of the area of the water, and there's no caves. This that they said Mayim Shein Lem Seif, the wife is prohibited. Hanimili binish the alma. That's only with the regular person. He gets out of the water somewhere, no one knows him, and so we don't know where he is. And there's not like this. The word doesn't get out that the person survived. And he doesn't make his way back home. And meanwhile, she gets married. So that's by a regular person. But if he was a rabbi, then everyone knows he's a famous person. If he got out of the cave, they would have, not out of the cave, if he got out of the water somewhere, then they would recognize who he was. And we should allow the wife to get married, even though it's water that doesn't have an end. because someone is going to recognize it. Gemara says, Ida Salak Kala. Ida Salak Kala is like, if he got out, then there would have been a rumor. The word would have gotten out if he survived. Gemara says, Valahi, but this is not so. It doesn't matter if it's a regular person or if it's a rabbi. The Eved in Lechatchila. The Eved is not allowed. The Eved in, if the wife did get married, then we let her remain married. But Lechatchila, to get married, we don't allow that. I didn't hear that expression the whole time. I didn't realize that. That if she would have gotten married, we let them remain married. It's like the first time it just, pushed that in. Okay, Tanya was starting to buy some Ram Gamliel Pamachas. One time, Isa Malach Basfina was on a boat. This is Ram Gamliel talking. He was traveling on a boat. Risi Sfina Achash Nishbra. I see a boat somewhere in the distance that was broken apart. What's it called? Sank. When it like turns in, what's a word for that? I was saddened because there was a Talmud Chacham on that boat, and the boat just sank. Manu, who was that? Talmud Chacham Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Gamliel sad. Rabbi Akiva passed away on the boat. When I come to the dry land, Rabbi Akiva shows up and he starts asking me questions. I said, my son, who brought you out of the water? Amarlis, he said to me, Daf shel svina nezdamanli, a plank of the boat. I got a hold of it. V'chol gal v'gal shaba alai, and every wave that came over me. Now nesi leireishi, I ducked under the wave, and that's what they do when the big waves, the surfers, they go under it so it doesn't knock you over. So mikanam rechachamim. The sages said, "Im yavai rishayim al adam." This is really a mashal. If the capsize, if wicked people are bothering a person, just lower, duck, just duck. Amarti b'isisha. I said at that time, "Kama gedolim divrei chacham shem mayim sheish lam seif muteres mayim shein lam seif asura." It has no end. The water has no end. The wife cannot get remarried. You never know. The person could have made it out. Yeah, in certain Gemaras, the Daf Yomi Gemaras, they have on the front this Gemara, and they're playing with the word Daf shel Svina, and what they're trying to say is that every wave that comes over a person, if he studies the Daf, he holds on to the Daf, and that brings him out. That was I think that's what they meant to say. Okay. Tanya was taught in a brisa. That's a darshanim. So we're getting close to Rosh Hashanah. The big drashas are coming. So Tanya Amar Rabbi Akiva Pamach is Malach Besvina. One time I was traveling on a boat. This is Rabbi Akiva now. Yeah. Last time was Rabbi Gamliel talking about Rabbi Akiva. Now Rabbi Akiva's on a boat. See a boat that's lost at sea. And I was saddened that there's a Talmud Chacham that was on that boat. Mana Reb Meir. You see, this doesn't say that the boat was broken. This says Miturefes. Who was on the boat? It was Reb Meir. When I came to Kaputkia, Reb Meir shows up and he's asking questions. Who brought you here? He says, Amali, Galter Deni, a wave like pushed me lachavera to his friend. Bechavera lachavera, one wave pushed me to another wave. Ad shekiani le'abash, until it gave me over to the dry land. Amarti b'shakam gedolim divrei chamsham mayim sheish lam seif. Ishtim v'teres mayim shein lam seif ishtasura. There's no end. Then the wife is prohibited. Tana Rabbanan. Nafal guvarayas. Someone fell into a lion's den. Ein meidim alav. Can't testify that he died. Maybe the lions didn't eat him. He fell into like a hole that's filled with snakes and scorpions. Midim alav, then you can tell the wife is for sure dead. She can get married. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, even if he fell into this hole of snakes, you can't say that he for sure died. Maybe he's a chaver. Now, chaver here means that he's a snake charmer. Maybe he was able to blow his get the cobra. Okay, the Tanakama, what are they thinking? Agav itzitza maskele, even a snake charmer, but when he falls in and he falls with a bang, there's no way that he could charm them. Itzitza is he pressed against them. Taner Rabbanan was starting to Bryce Nafel Kivshan Eshmidim Alav. If he falls into a furnace, for sure died. Liyerim Malaya Yayin, the Shemen, to a vat that's full of wine and oil. Midim Alav, they can testify. I'm sorry, I skipped. Yishum Rabacha Amru, Shal Shemen Midim Alav, Neshu Mavir. What happens is when he falls into the big vat, there's a splash and it overflows onto the fire beneath. So for sure, if it was oil, that would make it flame up and everything would turn into flames. It would get even hotter. If it was wine, then it would cool down the fire when he fell in. So it could be that he was able to survive. But they said back to him, yeah, maybe for a moment it cools down the fire, but afterwards it burns even stronger. So it's not, it wouldn't to survive. Whatever you say. Let's go further. Amar Reb Meir, Ma'aseh Bechad Shenafal Labar Gadol. Reb Meir says someone fell into the big pit. Tanya was taught in the Bryce. Reb Meir. They tell Reb Meir, in the Bryce it gives us extra details that the Mishnah doesn't give us, more conversation. You're telling me a miracle story, and you're telling me based on a miracle story that you can't let the person remarry. That's you can't bring proof from those miracles. What's the miracle? Are you telling me that he didn't eat and drink for 3 days, and the miracle he survived? By Esther, it says they fasted for 3 days. She says, fast for me, don't eat and don't drink for 3 days. Must mean that he didn't sleep. That was the miracle. And he's in the water, falls asleep in the water. That's a problem. Rabbi Yochanan says if someone makes a shvua, he's not going to sleep for 3 days, then Malkin, I say, they give him lashes right away because it's impossible not to sleep for 3 days. But Yashan Lalta, and you let him sleep right away. Basically, he violated it even before he started. Reb Meir, my time, what's the reason for Reb Meir that he says that it's possible? Rav Kana, it's not that he didn't sleep. It's possible that he survived because kippen al gab kippen havu. I don't know exactly what the kippen are, but there's some sort of structures, something that he was able to rest on in the water. Caps, kippen sounds like caps. V'Rabbanan, what did the Rabbanan say? The shisha havu, it was slippery. It's impossible that he was able to rest on that. Rab Meir, well, maybe he was able to get a little bit of grab onto it, and he was able to rest just from those little things that were sticking out of the in the water. He was able to rest. Right? Rab Meir is talking about where the person fell into a big pit. Yeah, Tiki Tiki Tembo. Remember that book? These kids in China, one of them fell into the well. They had to go run and get the old man with the ladder. That's a very good kids book. So the way they talk to the mother, most honorable mother, Tiki Tiki Tembo, no Sarembo, fell into the well. Respect. Okay. Was a fellow Nechunya Chayfer Sichen. We had him, I think, in Tainus. He would dig pits to give water to the people that were traveling to be the regal. His daughter fell into one of those pits. They went to tell Rabbi Chanina Mendaisa, well, Shari Shaina Amalem Shalom. Said everything is good. Shni Amalem Shalom. He said, second hour, he said, she's fine. Shlishas Amalem. And the third hour said she got up. Amalem Biti, when she comes out, it's Mi Helcha, who brought you out? Amalai. Zachar Shel Rechelim. Apparently some male sheep came along. V'zakin manhiga, it was the old man that was leading them, and he helped me get out. The Elim, Rashi tells us, is Yitzchak, the ram of Yitzchak, and the old man that's leading him is Avram. Rashi says, Amrullah. So they said to him, Naviyata, to Reb Chanina ben Dosa, you're a prophet. I'm not a prophet or a son of a prophet. Something that he was doing for a mitzvah is going to cause harm to his descendants. He had this water for them. But nevertheless, Reb Nechunya his son died in thirst. Means Hashem is particular with the tzaddikim, even with the hair's breadth. They have to be extra careful. That Hashem is exalted amongst all the holies, and there's fear all around him, which means that someone on a higher level has to be extra careful. Okay, Shakaya.
Question. So they was